For some reason, it act like you don't see Stanley.
Say what? I heard my name.
No, I said for some reason you don't show up on the. I hope they can hear you though. When once it starts to restream. Okay, we
Well,
streaming.
well, if you can hear me, they can hear me.
It's like your thing don't even show up on here. That's I ain't never seen that one before. It's probably because your camera ain't on. I don't know, but
Yeah,
we could pop it off because
I'm
we.
incognito, baby.
Yeah, okay, well. All right, well we can pop it off. From what I'm seeing, we do seem to be live streaming. We is on. So I'd like to welcome everybody that will tune in, that will view this to our episode 6 of Involuntary Servitude. Of course, this is a platform where we prioritize uplifting ACAA. ACAA is our bill that we're in the second year right now that we're working on the ballot. We got to work through the Senate. We worked through the Senate last year, passed the floor, passed all our committees. Of course, this bill has to pass the committees in the Senate, and then we can pass the floor, and then the bill will be sent. Actually, it will no longer be a bill. It will be put on the ballot for the constituents to vote. And what ACA is, we're fighting involuntary servitude. A lot of people, some people know, some people don't know. Slavery still exists. Our federal constitution, as well as Article 1, Section 6 of the California Constitution, allows for the exploitation of human labor if you've committed a crime. CDCR, of course, along with just about every other correctional facility or correctional entity across the United States, actually indulges in practices and profits off the labor of individuals that are incarcerated. So ACAA would actually amend the Constitution to make that completely illegal here in California. So we kick it off around the introductions, of course. Well, not of course, like everybody should know me. My name is Lawrence. I am the regional advocacy and organizing associate here at LSPC, also interim CFU coordinator. Of course, proud all of us are non-member. And kick it to, of course, hold on, let me, of course, I'm system impacted. I spent close to 2 decades of my life in prison. Um, Now I'm home and I'm doing what I should have been doing a long time ago, which is being an asset to my community, being an asset to my state, uplifting individuals that was should I say walking in the shoes and in the path that was prepared for me by my elders and by other individuals before me, and continuing focusing on making change for people like me. So I'm gonna toss it to Jesse. Jesse, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Jesse Estrada. I'm a substance abuse counselor. I work for Centerpoint, and I am also system impacted. I just recently got released 5 months ago, and I was incarcerated for about 30 years. And I came to meet you and the organization, and I am interested in giving back. I like policy work, and I appreciate you guys inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Bobby.
Hey, my name is Bobby Butts. I am all of us a non-member out here in Riverside. Um, Lately, just been working on my own consulting firm because I have expertise in child policing, community building, and so I'm glad that you gave me a call because we just did a roundtable December 15th with a Professor Dylan Rodriguez at UCR and some more members of all of us throughout the state of California. So I'm glad we're bringing this back up again.
Of course, of course. Stanley. No face Stanley right now, y'all. No face Stanley.
Yeah. So as much as we're talking about, before I introduce myself, I just wanted to give a little clarification. All of us are none is a grassroots movement, right? Started about 20 years ago by folks who are formerly incarcerated that advocates for change in prison and for those of us who are out of prison. So my name is Stanley Thermidor. I am a policy and advocacy strategist with a New Way of Life reentry project. I spent a little bit over 22 years on a 15 to life sentence. And this is a very important topic that, as much as we think that the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, they did put an exception clause that allowed them to still use slave labor in prison.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I got a couple of questions. that I want to ask y'all. I really want y'all opinions on a lot of these things. I'm pretty sure I can imagine and envisioning what y'all feeling, what y'all think. But a lot of people, um, they may not be familiar with a system impacted people feel about not only the practice of involuntary servitude, but also how we feel about the efforts and attempts to amend this constitution and change, this inhumane and deplorable practice. So I guess I'll start with Bobby. I got a question and I need an answer to you. What is involuntary servitude and why should it be abolished?
So to me, it's just another form of slavery, and it should be abolished because families are being destroyed in order for society to grow in these families. And I believe that's why it should be abolished.
Right. Stanley,
And
same
that's
question.
another.
Okay, my bad. You weren't finished. Was okay. Stanley, same question to you.
One of the things when I when I think about why it should be abolished is the fact that, unbeknownst to a lot of Americans, and the AP put out, the Associated Press put out an article a few days ago talking about how folks who are incarcerated, their labor contributing to the success of billion-dollar companies, and yet they're paid pennies on the dollar, right? Their working conditions are horrible, and they're treated like slaves, right? And so, when we have a lot of times in American society where we are in an uproar over sweatshop labor, right? With these billion-dollar companies that are paying pennies on the dollar for whether folks in this country or folks out of this country to produce their goods and their products, but we don't have that same outrage when it happens to folks who are incarcerated, right? And so, we need to have that same kind of mentality that these folks still, even though they may be incarcerated, they deserve the same kind of respect and dignity and compensation for their work. But most of all, they need the autonomy to decide whether or not they want to contribute to this, right? Whether they want to be part of this. But being incarcerated, you don't have a choice being part of this. You're either part of this or prison is not the only punishment you have, but there's extra punishment inside of prison. And so they add on to your sentence extra hardships outside of being separated from your loved ones, outside of being able to enjoy outdoor activities when you feel like it, outside of showering when you won't, outside of sleeping when you won't, outside of doing a lot of things when you won't. Because in prisons, everything is structured to do it when they want you to do it, as opposed to when you want to do it, right? And so it needs to be abolished so that people can have the autonomy. Because most people in prison are coming back outside, right? And we have them in a system wherein they lack autonomy. And that's not conducive to rehabilitation on the outside, because once they go outside, they have to make choices for themselves. But inside, they're hampered about making. So they get conditioned, whether it's explicitly or implicitly, right? And so part of rehabilitation is learning how to make the right decisions for yourself at the right time. But prison takes that away from you. So that's one of the reasons it should be abolished.
Exactly. Jesse, same question to you, brother.
I recently got released from Corcoran State Prison, and I was working in the PIA cookie factory, and it's like being on the assembly line. You're right there packing lunches and packing cookies and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you're there for about 8 hours, 6 hours straight, and you're forced to kind of be on there and be on pace with the machine all day, every day. And it's another day, it's another way of modern slavery. It just and if you don't show up, you'll get written up, or you'll get put on some kind of restriction. You'll lose your visits and stuff like that. But you're doing a $15-20 an hour job, and you're only getting pennies on the hour, which doesn't make no sense. And then you're paying 50% of restitution. So it doesn't make no sense. It doesn't add up. And then in the PIA, as he said, it's a multi-million and not a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're making the pennies, and they're getting all the profits, and it just doesn't add up. And I also had a job in there on laundry. Laundry and Corcoran is a huge profit company where we do laundry for other prisons and stuff. And I'm doing like a probably easy $20-30 per hour job, putting everything in these big machines and the irons and stuff like that for the sheets and everything. And you're there all day. You're grinding all day. And sometimes in the summertime, is that the conditions that are in there are so hot and humid. And if you don't show up, you're either going to lose your job, you're going to get a write-up, or you're going to lose visitation, you're going to lose privileges. But it's not right. It's not right for us to be there. Like the gentleman said, it's like a sweatshop in there. You're forced to be in there. And when you're trying to survive, you're not gonna say no to the pennies on the hour, because you need to live. You need to buy essentials and stuff like that. So it's a forced labor, and that's the only way that I can see that, and that's why it's been very challenging to get the PIA industry to raise the wages to even maybe something as minimal as $3, $5, $7 an hour. They won't do it, because they're profiting everything at our expense. So I think that's why it should be abolished immediately. It should be no issue about them not trying to abolish it. It makes sense to get rid of it.
Exactly. There's a particular ideology or a particular viewpoint that kind of really irks me with a lot of people in society. Okay, I won't say a lot of people, just say certain people. People feel like because you committed a crime, that being exploited for your labor is okay. They feel like because you're committed a crime, that's supposed to be a part of your sentence. And of course, I don't agree with that. I feel that me committing a crime and being sentenced to do a sentence because of that crime um, comes with a whole lot in itself. First off, I'm alienated, I'm estranged from society, I'm alienated, I'm estranged from my family. That alone, just to start right there, has tremendous trickle down effect. That only not only affects me, that affects my family, that affects my community, it affects them economically, it affects them socially, it affects them mentally. Like there are a whole lot of apparatuses that are being affected because I am serving this sentence, and not only do I have to sit here and endure this life behind these prison walls, behind these razor wire fences. I have to navigate daily. I have to suffer and be punished daily already. So, of course, I don't feel anybody should be able to profit off of my suffering because I committed a crime. So, a question I pose to you guys is, how do you respond to the suggestion that if one commits a crime, that involuntary servitude should be a part of their sentence? And Stanley, you wanna start with that one?
Yeah, that's such a layered question, because I think it starts with the tough on crime narrative that's been going on in this country for a good 40, 50 years, right? And it, if we look at the statistics, 1 in 6 people in this country, because we incarcerate more people than anybody else in this world, including Russia, including China, including North Korea, all these countries we deem as so draconian. America leads everybody by far. And you know who the second entity is? California, right? California by far supersedes every other nation but the United States, right? So this tough on crime that we've been pushing for decades it hasn't worked, first off, because we're still at a 60-70% recidivism rate. So if tough on crime worked, the recidivism rate wouldn't be that high. Secondly, I think that the issue also becomes that, prison is easy, right? Prison, you in there, you ain't got nothing to do all day, you just chillaxing, and no, that's not prison, right? Prison is tough. It's tough on you physically, it's tough on you more so emotionally and mentally because of what you lack, because of the lack of contact, because of the violence that's in prison, and everything else that comes along with it, like we talked about, the being separated from your family, separated from your loved ones, and things of that nature. Prison in it of itself is a punishment. And for folks who have been to it, it's hard for them to fathom, right? It's hard for them to conceptualize the level of difficulty, the mental fortitude and emotional fortitude it takes to actually endure prison, right? Even one day of prison, let alone decades of prison. And so I think the misconception behind that is part of the crafted narrative to keep this revolving door going so that these industries can benefit off of the backs of folks who are, first of all, Black and brown, because as much as Black folks make only about 13% of the population of this nation, we make almost half of those who are in prison, right? And when you look at, it's also an economic issue because folks who are incarcerated, pre-incarceration, only makes about $19,000. So this narrative is crafted to keep poor folks down, to keep Black and brown folks down and in their place, and the profit off of their backs. Because there's nothing in prison that really rehabilitates, that really helps a person to get out in a better place. Because when they get out, what are they given? Two, maybe $300 gate money, right? How are you gonna live on $200 and $300 gate money? That's gone in a day. And so, how do you expect people to survive, right? And so, the narrative that's been pushed has been crafted by folks who benefit from this system, whether it's prosecutors because they got a notch on their belt for winning a case, right? Or it's these industries who are able to have such large profits by having such low overhead because they are using incarcerated people's labor.
Bobby, same question to you. What is your response to our society, or those pockets of our society that feel like involuntary servitude is supposed to be a part of a sentence when a person commits a crime?
So I just want to add on to what my brother was just saying. It's perpetual vulnerability against Black and browns because of the class statuses and things of that nature. I just think you can always go back to like the Crusades or whatever. But the status is when there's a class status and you're Black and brown, you're more vulnerable and lower. They have such low expectations of us that, who's going to believe us, because of the decades or the hundreds of years of keeping us down. Our sheriff in Riverside County, he makes $30 million off the slave labor out here. And I just know if we were able to allow the people in jail or the people behind the walls to be able to say if they want to do the work or not, that would be helpful, to give a person a chance. Like Brother Jesse said, Many of them don't want to do the work, but they're forced to do it because they don't want to go without, because they don't have family members, because they're probably the breadwinner that is behind the bars. And I just know that if California is going to do something, it should, reflect our state values, and if we say we're about, healing and helping our people, then we should be able to do just that without extortion of Black and brown bodies still. And I'm turning it back over.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that you don't appreciate any type of narrative being utilized when it comes to saying that if you committed a crime, you should be forced to work.
Correct. Completely against it. Should be. You should be able to ask me, and I should be able to say yes or no, not forced to, or not
That,
cornered into, or not saying it's gonna. Oh, if you don't do this, your time's not gonna get knocked off, or this is not gonna count. All those shouldn't be a factor. I should have the choice. If I do the crime, then I have to do the time. Nothing about working for free should be in it.
nothing about being forced to work so you can profit off me. That's not a part of it either.
Yeah,
Jesse, you want to add to that, or
I do. I think that, if one shouldn't be forced to work, especially hard labor, as part of being in prison. The brother said earlier that, prison in itself is hard, and it is. It is hard. Sometimes the way we talk about it, and to people that are not system impacted, they they think it was just a walk in the park, because that's the way sometimes we make it sound, but because we don't really want to talk about everything that really goes on in prisons, and the stuff that happens to us. And like he said, mentally, physically, psychologically, and even spiritually, we're affected in all those areas. And then having to be in prison and serving a life term, and being forced to work, especially hard labor, that just adds to everything. It just mentally, it just wears you down. And I know for me personally, I don't want to speak for everybody, but if they told me that, you know, uh, um, we have these jobs available, and we're gonna make sure that you get paid good, and we're gonna make sure that you get some kind of benefits or something that, like, something that's worth it, then that's something that I could probably look at. If they offer me a PIA with maybe minimum wage, where I could get good medical benefits, dental benefits, and stuff like that, then it can make sense.
yeah,
But if it's just making pennies, and I'm getting just a minimum medical and dental, and not getting good benefits, medical, eye vision, and stuff like that, then it wouldn't make no sense. But if you tell me, well, if you don't go to work, then I'm gonna have to write you up and take your visits and all that stuff, then it just doesn't make no sense. That shouldn't be part of the sentence. And I also believe too that if they paid people on the inside minimum wage, at least, I could just imagine that people would be more educated, more motivated, and would be more inclined to give back, and to be an asset in the inside community, preparing them for the outside. And that would be way, way better than anything they're offering now.
yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, this bill doesn't ACAA doesn't seek to require them wages. I think that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother bill. We do have advocates that are, um, gearing up to for that for sure. But to transition into something you guys mentioned multiple times, there's consequences if you decide that you don't want to be forced to work for nothing. Um, can you guys share with, those that might happen to view this and watch this, and explain to them, some of the consequences of of either deciding that you don't want to work, whether it's because the conditions are dangerous at work, you're putting yourself in jeopardy, or whether it's because of some type of rehabilitative program that clashes with your work and you would prefer to partake in that rehabilitative process. Can you kind of elaborate on some of the things that, we're up against when we decide, okay, we're not going to work for nothing, or when we decide we want to prioritize doing something else with our time? Anyone who, Jesse, you can kick that one off.
Well, something that comes to my mind, it's not PIA, but it's also kind of, it feels like forced labor, in Corcoran State Prison. I worked in the kitchen, and that kid, if anybody knows about Corcoran State Prison, we know that almost every single inch in that institution is the working conditions are deplorable, not good, not healthy. I was working in the kitchen where there was mold, there was rats running around everywhere. I mean, you could just imagine what was going on with the food. But and it was humid, it was hot in there, and it did not feel good. And if you didn't show up, of course, you'll get a rule violation, or let's just say worst case scenarios, if you do get a rule violation and your family already made arrangements to come for a family visit or whatnot, lots of money from your family. They're coming all the way over to see you, and all of a sudden you can't go because you refuse to go to work in horrible conditions. I mean, it's terrible. And Corcoran there's a lot of trauma I've been through being in that prison, man. A lot of stuff, man. A lot of different things, but we're talking about work conditions, and it's inhumane in there. I think that if the feds went in there every 6 months, they will not get their act together, because that's just it's a culture there. It's an inhumane culture of working conditions in Corcoran, and not just Corcoran. I would imagine throughout the state in the United States, because that's their MO. It's always been like that. And
Exactly.
I think with this bill right here, hopefully it'll change something.
Stanley, you have anything you want to add to, what those consequences look like when you decide that you do want to exercise your own autonomy?
Yeah, I mean, as a person with who had a life sentence, right? So when I got locked up, people with life sentences weren't getting out. That was just that simple. But when they cracked the doors and started letting some of us out, you couldn't come up to the board and expect to get out if you didn't have a GED. You better have a GED.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You needed to have a vocation. You if you weren't having no vocation, you needed to be in some kind of work or things of that nature. And so if speaking for a person who had a life sentence, you had to participate if you had any hope of getting out of prison. So aside from being written up, aside from having privileges taken or limited and things of that nature, you didn't have a choice but to work. And it wasn't just these different businesses that were profiting off of it, right? Because CDCR, they get money for folks going to vocation. They get money for folks going to education. They get money for the amount of people that get GEDs and things of that nature, right? And they also tie a lot of good time sentence credits to you doing those things. So if you don't have life sentence and you want to get out early, well, if you want to get out sooner, then you got to go to this job, right? If you want to get out sooner, you got to go to. You may already have a high school diploma, but we still need you to go to this ABE2 class that's below what you've already earned. We still need you to go to vocation, even though you're already a certified plumber on the streets. We still need you to go to vocation and get another vocation that oftentimes do not equip or prepare you for the job market once you get out. Because the certifications they provide you, most of them are not up to date. Most of them are not in line with the codes and regulations that folks can get out and get an immediate job.
And a lot of times it's supposed to show up and it's not in the system when we get out. And sometimes that's a big one. And people spend so much time putting in all this effort and really do learn these crafts. And then you come to figure out that none of your certifications that you done took and passed back there are no longer in the NCCR record, or it can't be found. So how would I say this? I think it's imperative that people understand, especially with people that have a life sentence, and like you said, their only option, their only choice and hope is of going home is this board most of the times. And people don't understand exactly how just any simple write-up could give the board an excuse to be like, yep, you're not fit for society. You're not worthy of going home because you can't follow the rules. When I mean, all actuality, a reasonable personable mind would think that, okay, just because I got a write up for not wanting to be forced to work for nothing doesn't mean that I'm a threat to the safety and security of my society. That doesn't mean I pose a public threat to my community. But we all know that that is what the board will say and do. So for individuals who know that they have to depend on the board, it's even like more of a slap in the face, because it's like, that they can't tell you no because they want to go home. But I pose another question, and this question comes. We hear a lot of opposition, or not a lot, let's just say, in those that voice their opposition. They speak on how should I say this? They try to say that they fear that if this bill was to pass, that people all over prison would no longer want to work, or would no longer have no job, or would no longer participate in the jobs that they do have. I personally for sure know that that's not the truth. I personally know that there are people in there that want to work, but would prefer just to have the option and autonomy to make the decisions themselves and give that what we are calling and considering informed consent. Part question. If, let's just say, you were still in there right now, would you choose not to work? Or would there be certain reasons why you still would work? And how do you feel, our comrades that are still on the inside? Do you think all of them is just going to up and be like, all right, I don't want to work no more, et cetera, et cetera? Bobby, what you think?
Just from my own experience, working when I was in Banning, doing the posters and stuff for the sheriff, there's special privileges with these jobs. And my brother just said he was working in the kitchen. I mean, he had extra food to make and do all kind of, extra things to make sure he had all his hygiene, whatever he wasn't able to get paid, right? And so there are going to be people that are going to work because they want to do something with their time. They want to, be better. That, when people go to jail, they think about, oh, they're going to rehabilitate me. So let me do these things so I can get better in my mind. So when I do come home, I can make better decisions, right? So it's like if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you don't have money, then you might find yourself doing strange things to get money because you don't have money, or family does not have money, and just keep you in that vicious cycle of criminal mind, of survival. I'm sorry, the cycle of survival mind. And so I believe that if they were honest and divert the money that is being brought in from these big corporations that they're selling us pennies to a dollar to, and help back with the community and the families where we come from while we're incarcerated, people might want to work, but it just depends on how they're going to diversion the money. So I think I'm just going to leave that right there.
Jesse, what do you envision? Do you envision that everybody is just gonna going to just up and stop working just because this bill passes?
Absolutely not. And I think, Bobby said, some people need to work because it's a necessity. Not everybody has the luxury or even the blessings to have a family on the outside that will take care of us. I know I have a strong family for 30 years, and they took care of me. But on the inside, I mean, when I first went in at 18, I didn't know what it was to be able to make the decision. Well, you know what, I don't want to do that job because it feels unsafe and it's inhumane to be working in there. I just went. I just went with the flow for a long time. But as I got older, and got a little bit wiser and a little bit smarter, and I started to learn a lot of things, I would have liked to have that choice of, Mr. Estrada, would you mind working here in the PIA under these conditions? I would have probably said no, even if I think they were paying me kind of good. But working also can be a good thing for a lot of folks. Good etiquette, work ethic, and stuff like that. It helps them to survive a little bit, minus all the inhumane conditions of that job. And I think a lot of people would probably still would want to work, especially now, the ones that are older and more mature, and they have a lot of right on the line, especially for people that are going to board, and maybe it's against their will, but when you get older, you get wiser. You know what? Maybe I think that I do want to do that job because I know that I could be an asset, not only to that company, even though I'm making pennies, but I could be an asset and I'm learning the skill. And I know that if I'm not there, I know that the people that are running that job are gonna be like, "Where's Jesse at? We need him to be over here." So I kind of feel like I want to be I want to feel like I'm needed there, but not under those conditions. But I also want the choice if I want to do that job or not, and not be forced to do it.
I agree. I don't believe for sure that people it would just stop working. Something else that they want to throw around too, which I don't believe is true, or maybe I could say more of it. I know it speaks to their willingness and desire.
Can I chime in? Can I chime in real
You
quick?
want to hit that one? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that in itself is a false narrative, right? Because most people in prison do not get paid in their assignment. There are very few people getting paid anything, and yet they're going, right. I was a TA for ABE2, which is the education portion, and most of the guys that were there, they wanted to go there for themselves to learn. They wanted to go there themselves, so when they get out, they can do homework with their kids, right? Guys in vocation, they enjoy learning a trade, and guys in who were doing work, they liked the work that they were doing, right? And if for nothing else, most people who go to work like going to do it because it breaks up the time, right? If for nothing else, because it breaks up the time and it makes the time easier to be away from your cell, to be away from your dorm for 6 to 8 hours a day, and makes the time go by from the perceptual sense faster, right? And so if for no other reason, folks will still go to these assignments, whether they had the option to or not, simply because it benefits them mentally and emotionally.
Exactly. I agree. I don't think that they understand that nobody wants to sit in their cell all day. Nobody wants to be in that dorm all day. Like that energy day in and day out, like that's not something that most incarcerated individuals would subscribe to. People want to get out and be about. Like like Bobby was saying, they're the privileges that come with having a job are still there. And even though those privileges to most would be minor, like just the fact of being able to get the heck out of my cell, yes, that is looked at as a privilege to us. So it's just give me this consent. Let me have my autonomy back. So if I want to be working this type of job, let me be the one that decides that I'm doing this job and that I'm working it. Is the only thing that we're really asking for. Like we're not asking at this moment to, all right, let's increase my pay wage and stop paying me pennies. Oh, no, let's stop forcing me to
Yeah.
sit here and work for these, minute cents. Let's stop forcing me to do it because and leaving the reason and the onus on me is because I committed a crime that I should be forced. No, give me my autonomy. Um, some people feel that possibly um, the prisons can't be ran or operated if this bill passes. I know that speaks to a few things. One, that's ludicrous. But two, it what it really does also speak to is how much they rely on us to do what they already get paid to do. So if you feel that the prison will not be operatable, um, if this bill passes, what are you actually saying? What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to society? And what are you saying to this legislative body that sits there and gives you guys so much money each year to run and operate a correctional system? Um, of course, we do understand that incarcerated labor saves CDCR a whole lot of money. Even in
Yeah.
those things, even in the under the apparatus where people aren't getting paid and there are no products being made and sold, they are still costing. Well, they still would be costing, should I say, the state millions and millions of dollars. But because incarcerated individuals are forced to do this labor, forced to perform these services, whether it's janitorial services, whether it's clerical and administrative services, whatever services that we could think of, it's behind these walls. But guess what? CDCR would be paying people in our community where those jobs should be their appropriate and effective wage. So when they say that, okay, this would this would shut the prison down, they will longer be operational. I think what they really are saying is, um, y'all about to stop our money train. But what I think it also is saying too is that as an entity, we don't value our community as much as we say we are. Because why wouldn't we want to put those jobs back into our community? Why would we want to sit there and prioritize individuals that are incarcerated so y'all can take that money and move it elsewhere? Stanley, question to you. Do you feel like the prisons can't be operated without forced labor?
So it can, right? It can and it can't, right? Because there's a lot of jobs that they look to and depend upon us to do, right? Because I think about sometimes we've been on lockdown, right? One of the reasons we got off lockdown so quick was because the COs didn't want to work.
Tired of working. Exactly. Exactly.
For no other reason was because they had to bring the trays to the cell. They had to clean up, and they're like, man, we don't want to work. We just want to sit around on our butts and watch them work, right?
Exactly.
And so yes and no, right? Yes, because when we look at other states, right, other states don't pay nowhere near the amount of money they pay the COs in California. Nowhere near, right? And yet they're operational. And so we could actually hire more people to work in the prisons at less at the rate that other states are paying, and it would be just fine, right? But the CCPOA is a pretty powerful entity in and of itself that has a lot of pull, right? I think about what happened after slavery, was supposedly abolished, right? They developed the convict leasing laws, right? That they could just scoop up anybody up, and it was basically black men they were scooping up, and you know they would sell them out or lease them out to companies to work in horrible conditions, and if they died, they died. Oh well, right? I think about the sharecroppers that here black folks were able now to finally own some land, but they were in so much debt. They were basically slaving for the white owner that they had to buy they had to lease the land from, buy the seeds from, and get the machine, everything else. So everything they did didn't benefit them in any way, shape, or form, and they would slave and labor all day, but it was not called slavery, right? It was called something different, and so when we look at how prisons are operated, it's the same way, right? We're in there benefiting the prison system. We're in there making things easier for these COs and these administrators, right? Because we type up 118s, 128s, which are the write-ups, right? We mow the grass, we cook the food. They got cooks, but the cooks ain't really cooking the food. They hire cooks, but they're not the one cooking the food, right?
They're monitoring.
So we doing all these jobs, right?
High
But they're
paid monitors.
benefiting. They're benefiting because even the security of the system is dependent upon us, right? Because when they have a problem with somebody, they whisper to somebody, say, "Hey, you know, so and so did this, right? Hey, you know, we don't like that guy. We need you to take care of him, right?" They depend upon us to regulate the prison, and so every aspect of that prison, we have a critical role that we play, and yet they're the one benefiting and not us.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's and the cold part about it is it's been operating like that for so long because of the method that they prioritize utilizing, which is exploitation. I love that you painted that narrative of and pointed out how involuntary servitude, of course, is nothing but, like Michelle said, prison is the new Jim Crow. She said that for a reason because, like you said, if we go back to our history, when slavery was supposed to be abolished, guess what? Our government and business owners found ways to make sure that they found a way to still get their cheap labor. And like you said, it went from the chain gangs to the convict leasing, et cetera, et cetera. When one was abolished, it was the next. And when the next one was abolished, then it was like, okay, now let's continue to use the incarceral system. So now we will get this free labor from our incarceral system. Even back with the convict leasing and the chain gangs, like there were laws that were created back then just to funnel people of color into the incarceral system so they could utilize that labor because they was trying to panic and figure out, okay, where are we going to get this free cheap labor for to continue to run our business, to continue to help us get rich, et cetera, et cetera. So prison is still the remaining lineage. Slavery hasn't been completely abolished. We know this, and the incarceral system is slavery still, and they don't like to hear that, and it bothers me when people don't want to hear the truth. They don't like it's they take offense to when we consider or we make the joke passingly, or even if we're serious about our legislative body being slaveholders. I mean, if you're looking at it in all actuality, you are slaveholder. Our government is very much intertwined into this entity that we call involuntary servitude. And especially if we trace back the history of California.
Can I interject on that?
Oh my God. If we really chase back the history of California, the founding of California, we would really be shocked at what we see and how intertwined slavery in the prison industrial complex truly is. Go ahead, Stanley.
Sorry, I was walking into my apartment and it froze as it switched to the Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so ACA 8, right? It is the second go round of ACA 3. And one of the reasons they killed ACA 3 last year was because it says, oh, it's going to cost us, what, $150 million more, right? And they were not worried about the inhumanity of it, but the money that they were going to lose, right? It had nothing to do with, hey, these people should be treated with dignity. These people were criminals, or no, it had to do with the bottom line. And so they killed it because they were afraid of losing $150 million when they gave CDCR an extra $1 billion this year, even though
Talk about it, though.
crime has been going down, prison population has been going down, and yet they still get an extra $1 billion, and you were tripping last year over 150 million?
Exactly.
Come on now. Come on.
Exactly. How about
The
we
math
all
don't
said
add
that?
up.
Take $1 million back, 150 million back from them, then there you go. But that's true. That is like it's amazing how this topic is so touching to some people. But y'all know now is the time though that we need to be putting back on our well, we never stopped wearing them, but our retired slave shirts. Our retired slave shirts is, I'm telling you, but I love to walk around, bruh. I was in Piedmont one day with a retired slave shirt on, walking down the street. Oh my God. If you would see the looks that I was getting while walking down the street with that shirt, bruh, I'm telling you, it's such a touchy topic. And some people know exactly um what we mean and why we wear that shirt. Some people know exactly what it's all about, and then some people we have to explain it to them. But for sure, it's a great conversation piece. I think there are a lot of misconceptions possibly about ACA 8. We have a tough battle ahead of us because I don't know, something I noticed in the legislative process. It's easy for entities that should not matter when it comes to making effective decisions based off the voice that your constituency is feeding you. Um, we have a problem with our legislative body to the point, not, you know, some people will speak to it, some people won't. But like you said earlier, CCPOA or OPA, however the acronym is, they should not have more power than the constituency that puts these individuals in office. But somehow they do. Somehow the governor and the legislative members are more beholden and more prioritized and focused on making them happy versus making their constituents happy. The constituents that make up, the whole that make up within these districts of the whole legislative body are way greater than the CCPOA. Matter of fact, guess what? Formerly incarcerated individuals, we make up way more than their vote. So how is it to me that it seems like sometimes the legislative body caters to them and feels more beholden to them than they feel to the voices of their people who voted them in office? How do they feel more committed and more beholden to, these other entities instead of more committed and emboldened to move towards what's morally and equally right? We all know as a society that it has been past time to remove any lingering remnants of slavery. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, where is it? Is it? I mean, I guess most people would say that this money is possible is possibly um, the reason or the blame for CCPOA having so much sway and pull on our elected officials. What do you guys think? Because I think it's bogus and it's ludicrous, and I think that it's about time that our legislative, began to look at it in a total different way and begin to realize that that's not the power of the voice that should matter. The power of the voice that matter first off should be the rights. What's right? What's morally right? And what your constituency is telling you. California's been saying that this is what they want. Like, look at us. We need to get on board. Oregon has already did it. Alabama has already changed their constitution and get rid of it. So, as one of the most progressive states that a lot of other states take their lead from, isn't it about time? And how is, all these other entities a little bit more influential than us? So what do you guys feel about that? What do you guys, what comments or expressions do you guys, you want to share about that?
I think that when they talk about prison reform, right? We always expect all the other states to follow our lead. We're doing this. Look what we're doing. We're doing this. We're changing this. The legislative body is working with this on this, and it's great. We're doing this, and we're educating people, and we're helping them with this, and that. But when it comes to this part, for some reason, we can't figure it out. We can't lead on this, and this is the most, like how you said, the most progressive probably state and most liberal of all the states, and we actually have people in position that can pass these laws without opposition, because they're in power of all the bodies, the assembly, the state. They're able to pass these bills without much opposition. But I think it's a money thing. There's a lot of things involved with special interests and all kinds of things going on, things that we can't even see, or that we'll never know about. But we can put two and two together and see that it's a money thing. And if you take the money, then you take the power. And if you take the power, then these people are not in position of power. So money is a big factor in this, and we kind of know what's going on. We're not blind to see that there's way more than what we see, and it's hard to separate one from the other. It kind of looks like they both been going together for decades, so you can't. It's very, very challenging to separate one from the other, because it doesn't sound right, but it sounds corrupt that they both go together.
Yeah. We got what, 2 minutes? I have simple question, you guys. Do you believe CDCR has ever gave you any of the jobs that you had in any attempt to rehabilitate you?
Well, I'll take that. No.
I just,
No.
I just,
That was like, is that a trick question? That was my mind.
the way all y'all was looking at me was like, is it a trick question? Hold on, let me.
What is he really saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
I guess
I tried
ahead,
to, when I did it, I tried to go work for the newspaper because I knew how to bind books, right? And I didn't get the job because I was formerly incarcerated. So, no, I even tried to use the skill that they gave me once I got home. It still wasn't useful.
exactly. So I guess it's safe to say that we know that no matter what CDCR claims, given the individuals that are incarcerated their right in their autonomy to choose the job or not, would not affect their ability to be rehabilitated, because we know that first off, y'all are not giving us a job and attempt to rehabilitate us, and rehabilitation is way more than having a job. Um, Rehabilitation requires and entails so much more, and um, I just want to tell y'all I appreciate y'all for jumping in here and having this conversation with me. A lot of people probably don't know that this conversation wasn't supposed to be with these people right here right now. We what we're 2/3 down who it was supposed to be with. So but I appreciate y'all answering the call and jumping on and facilitating. I wasn't even supposed to be moderating and facilitating this, but we got it done. We got it done, y'all. So I appreciate y'all showing up, sharing your piece. Keep uplifting ACAA. We got to fight ahead of us. So that's why we do this, and constantly put something out there so there be some type of education so people can hear and understand exactly what we're doing, what it's about, and hear it from impacted individuals. Because I believe for sure we're the ones that always need to be leading the call. And with that said, I appreciate y'all. Y'all was a blessing, and y'all have a good one.